Hello and welcome to part 1 of our Songs of Syx gameplay here in the great city of Foremenlore. Well, it's not really a great city at the moment. We've got one shack that's got mud ceilings and walls, but it's going to be a great city at some point, I'm sure of it. We had a little brief look at it at the end of the last episode, but let's have another look at our surroundings and I can kind of tell you what I think. As it stands just now, we've got a lot of resources that we're able to mine from this upper mountain here. Quite a few gems, it looks like some coal, some iron, and some Smithrilian ore as well. We've also got some more iron ore that we can mine down here, a little bit of clay, which is very, very nice. One issue that we potentially are going to have is the fact that the road to lead to outside trade is down here. So we're probably going to have to make a bridge or a ford across this river just so we can connect up to the rest of the people about us. Other than that, we've got a pretty good starting area here. We've got some animals close by that we can hunt for some early food. A little bit of a stone deposit as well when we need it. A couple of forested areas that we can harvest for some wood. And a couple of forageable places as well, just so we can bootstrap our agricultural sector. Speaking of agricultural sector, we're going to have a plenty of fertile area down here next to this river, and we'll probably be able to irrigate this river out. I'm expecting our farms to probably be over in this area here. It's got quite a nice bend in the river here, and with some pumps and some irrigation we'll be able to make quite a nice little farming sector over here. But that's maybe a little bit too far ahead for now. I think what we're going to do first of all is we're going to hunt. So you can manually tell your guys to hunt by just clicking and dragging over animals, and it'll tell you the approximate meat that you're going to get off them as well. Normally you can automate this using a hunter's hut, but a hunter's hut does require furniture in order to be able to build. As we can see here, if we wanted to build this here, it's going to cost us 12 furniture. We don't have any furniture, so we're kind of stuck for that. But we can manually tell our guys to hunt, and that should be fine. I think when we are wanting to start off is we want to start with our logistics, and we want to build up a little warehouse. As it stands, we want to make sure that we have just a little bit of places to put our goods, so we're just going to put down a warehouse here. We'll give it a bunch of crates to store some stuff, and we'll also double up just so we can store some more goods in here as well. Yep, that looks pretty good for now. This will be a good little starter warehouse. We're going to expand this out as well, and that will mean that we'll be able to store a bunch more stuff in here. This gives us a good amount of crates to start off with, so we're just going to click the construct button like so. Other than that, we also need to think about our citizens' health, and what do they need for that? Well, they need a well. The well will be used to clean themselves and also to cool themselves off. So we need to think about our starting kind of area here. Before we do that, actually, I want to make sure that we have a kind of nice little plaza. I quite like having just like a little bit of an extended plaza in front of our throne. It makes things just a little bit nicer when it comes to our city. Yeah, I think something like this is fine. We can put a little speaker's post there, which we might just do just now, actually. We put that there. It gives our guys a little bit of entertainment, makes them a little bit happier, and means that they'll be more likely to move in going forward. Other than that, so as I said, we needed to work on our well, so we'll make sure we get a well. I think just here next to the plaza would be quite nice. It does mean that we're not going to be able to move down the way, but I think that's okay. If we build one there, it's quite a big one for starting off with, but it means that we'll definitely have enough space. And I think we'll get a hearth as well. I think this would be quite nice if we had some roads leading down off of here as well in the future. I think this is good for us to start with, so with that we're going to probably set ourselves a speed 2 or 3. Yeah, there we go. The capital is unreachable. There's no clear pass from any entry point to your throne. No immigration or trade can happen, so we need to clear this out as soon as possible. So how do we do that? Well, we can do that by just removing the water here. So if we do it so that it's slightly spaced out like this, people can still walk on it because it'll be shallow enough. And we can just build a little ford over to the other bank, like so. Just to make sure this happens a little bit faster as well, we probably want to make a, I can't even remember where they've put it now, there we are, workstation. So this will mean that we can set somebody to just work here. Probably, yeah, we'll probably put 2 workers. We want them to work here just to clear this out pretty quick. And that should be good for us to go. So hopefully somebody will get over there soon. In the meantime, people are building up the road, they're building up this speaker area. We start off with a little bit of resources, so we start off with some livestock, some rations, some stones, some wood, and a little bit of grain as well. It's one of the reasons why we want to start hunting. We can see here that we've got a couple of cadavers here. This has got the meat in it. We'll be able to store that up in our warehouse just so we can continue with our day. We'll speed up the time a little bit because it's going to take a little while for these guys to do. We've only got 10 guys to start off with because we don't have any titles. That's absolutely fine. They're a little bit unhappy as it stands. just because they're not getting access to any kind of services, but that's fine. We're going to set the auto immigration. We'll just set it at 1,500 for now. We just kind of want to get people in when we can. As the pop-up said, we're not going to get any immigration until we clear off this area down here. Looks like they're not quite so happy with that. It's not reachable, it's saying, so maybe we do have to make sure that we're removing all of the water. Not quite what I had in mind, but you know what, that's fine. It just means that, yeah, as you can see, he's just there. He's just going to clear out a little spot, little ford that we can do. And that'll mean that we can actually reach the other side of the river, and that should mean that we get some immigration coming shortly. Over here, things are working pretty well. We've managed to get our well done, so people will use that to wash themselves, keep themselves nice and tidy, as well as this hearth over here as well, just to make sure they stay nice and warm. I'll have to keep a little eye on how much wood we have left. We haven't got much wood left, but we have all the materials we need here for our warehouse, so there we go. That should be constructed now. Fantastic. We'll make sure to not set the radius, but instead make sure that we have at least somebody working here. And we want to make sure that we're starting to store some of our goods, so we'll store, I think, some meat, some rations, some fruit, because the fruit's quite close by. We'll store some wood, and we'll store some stone. So the way the warehouses work is you have a number of crates that you can assign to various goods. With that, they then go and store those goods in the warehouse. You can see there's not much capacity within the warehouse at the moment, so you can increase the capacity by either assigning more crates or by upgrading it. It means that each crate can then hold far more goods in it than it otherwise would, but that does cost furniture, so we're going to need to get some furniture sooner rather than later. As it stands, I think this is a good kind of selection of our earlier game goods that we can have, and that should be pretty alright. So now that we've done that and we've managed to build a few buildings, we're going to get a couple of trees cut down, and that'll help us a little bit. And on top of that, we also want to make sure as well, when I remember where it is, they unfortunately have changed everything for this newer version. There is janitor. We want to build a janitor. The reason we want a janitor is he's going to maintain our building for us, and we're going to give him a little bit of utilities. Every single workstation in the game has an efficiency meter, and that determines how well they do their job. 100% efficiency, then there's no production malice from their jobs. They'll kind of make just as much as they were expected to, and you can get extra bonuses through things like training, skills, tools, etc. But that's a little bit beyond us at the moment. As for now, we just need to make sure that we're clearing this out. How are we doing over here, guys? You clearing that out, I hope? Yep, you're just relaxing. Good stuff. Good to know that you're not shirking your responsibilities, I'm sure. But once we get this sort of land bridge cut out, that means that we'll have access to this entry point on the southern side of the map, and that means we can start to expect some immigration when people get happy. In the meantime, we're getting rid of this janitor. Right now we're constructing everything out of mud walls. Mud walls don't actually cost any resources in order to make, but they do take quite a long time. Ah, here we go. Perfect. Our capital is now open for immigrants and trade, which means we must have completed this little land bridge here. We have. Fantastic. We'll let them finish that off, and then we'll get rid of that workstation so they can work somewhere else. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, so every single building has a amount of degradation that happens to it. We can see that currently it's at 0%, which is great. The more degraded a building is, the less efficient it will be. So you want to make sure that you have these janitors working around your settlement just to make sure the things are working okay. Let this person clear that out. Fantastic. Good stuff, guys. We'll get rid of this workstation. You guys can now come back over and be part of the normal labor pool. And we can see as well that we're managing to get our meat over to our warehouse, and we have 14 days of food left. And the amount of days of food that you have will make your citizens more or less happy. Right now they should be quite happy because that's a lot of food for only 10 people. And that should probably tide us over for the rest of the year. We've got 14 days of food. Unfortunately, food will spoil. That's a mechanic that happens. There's a spoilage rate with food, especially things like meat. Meat goes off very, very quickly. Unless you do things like preserve it by turning it into rations or the like. We can see here that rations only have a spoil rate of 10% per year, but minus 5% if they are stored. Whereas meat has a 50% spoil rate if it's stored, which is actually a lot better than it used to be. It used to be just a flat 100%. You'd lose 100% of your meat over the course of a year or thereabouts. So the fact that it has half of that when it's being stored is a great, great thing. We just need to make sure that we've got our warehouses working. Alright, seems like we've managed to complete our janitor. That's great. And we need to have a little think about our sort of main road here, just while we have the main workers. So I'm thinking we'll probably have like a larger kind of causeway almost coming out here. And we'll probably have some more parallel roads coming out here. I think that will look quite nice. And in these bits here, we're going to set up some stalls. So if we go to distribution, we're going to set up a food stall over here. I think that'll look quite nice. Yeah, we can expand that out. Fantastic. So people will be able to come here and have a look at the stall and buy things from it. And we'll select that, let that go. We need to collect a little bit more stone as well. We're doing all right for our trees, but if we collect a little bit of stone as well, then that'll help things out just a little bit. And now that we've managed to open up our capital to being able to receive immigration and or trade, we should be able to see some immigrants coming in when people are happier. We can actually accept some other races, which we won't do for the moment. We'll stick with humans just for a little bit for the start. Once we start getting some farms up, I'm going to get some Crotonians in. We'll use them for farming. They're much better for farming than humans are. I mean, we do kind of need the workers. I'm just a little bit perturbed at the fact that they might not be too happy with the amount of meat we are eating, because they don't really like to eat meat at all. We're going to set these guys to forage. We want to get some fruit if we can, which will be very, very nice. We may send some additional hunters out as well, but we can wait to do that in just a little bit. In the meantime as well, we need to have a little think about homes. We're going to build probably just some long houses over here. So yeah, we'll set these guys up here. We build one or two is the question. I think we just build two. They don't cost anything, they just take time. And we can get our little housing district up here, next to the well, next to the hearth, next to the food stall, not too far away from the warehouse. And we'll also think about setting up our first refining area, or sorry, crafting area, which I think will be a carpenter workshop. Now these workshops do create noise, so these people living close by might not be too chuffed about the fact they're so close by to this carpentry workshop, but you know, it's early days and we don't really care about the citizens, do we? And we'll set up just a nice little efficient small carpenter here. Give them a little bit of doors as well. You can set up your buildings kind of like in these little squares and just kind of put them around. I do like to actually expand them out and kind of do a more traditional medieval thing where you have a central courtyard surrounded by a building, because in that central courtyard you can start to put things like haulers for when you have your big buildings that create what you want, and that's, I find that's quite an efficient system to use once you get that set up. Let's have a little look at our humans. What are they happy and unhappy about? So overall our population is all right. They're fairly happy about the fact that we have lots and lots of food days, which is good, and their access to services are going up, which is also very, very good. Once we get these food stalls open, that'll make them far, far happier. We just need a little bit of stone for that, but that's absolutely fine. And it seems like we've basically completed this longhouse. Yep, and everybody has a home now, which is also great. In the meantime, yeah, we just need to collect a few more raw resources. We've actually got a lot of wood, so we don't need to worry about that. It's more these stones over here that we need, people. If you can get to that, that would be preferable, but they're just here clearing out the carpenter workshop as it stands. You can see how long it's taking them to sort of clear this out and build it. That's just because the walls and the ceilings are made of mud. But once we have a little bit more wood, we'll probably change it over to wooden buildings, just so it's a little bit quicker to build, even if it does take up wood as a resource. We are going to have to be a little bit canny of our wood because we don't have a renewable source at the moment. We don't have a forester set up so that people will just work away at that. But these trees will grow back over time, especially depending on the fertility of the land. Looking at the time, it looks like we are in summer now. Fantastic. You know, things are going pretty well for us, it's got to be said. And once we have this carpenter's workshop up and working, that means that we'll then be able to start making some furniture and we'll start be able to do some hunting. It's a good point at the start that we are so close to both of these animals here. We could maybe even set up like a nice little pasture, but we really want to get this carpenter and this food stall up sooner rather than later, people. Getting this wood together isn't a bad shout either. We'd probably actually change it over now. So say if we were to make, say, a bakery, we're actually going to change the walls now so that they are wooden walls, and that will probably go a little bit better. We could start churning some of that grain into bread as well, just to give us a little bit more food variety, make people a little bit happier. But I think people are quite happy with the meat as it stands. We'll have a little look at their access. We'll maybe actually say, you know what, you can just use a little bit of wood to furnish your house, just to make them just a little bit happier, give them a little bit more access to things, and they'll use that to like furnish their house, because as it stands is just a dirt floor with, well, straw to sleep on, so it's not exactly the nicest. And here we go, we've managed to get our food stall up, so this is making sure that people are able to come over here, they're able to buy this food, and they're able to enjoy that quite a bit. I can't remember, yeah, okay, that is the way I want it, because I want them to have the stall on the outside that they come over and they just grab things from that. The workers over here. I can never quite tell when you're putting that down which way that goes, and I always get that the wrong way round the first time. And as it stands, things are looking alright. We might actually use, because we've got 6 people unemployed, but we're using them to mine out the stone to bring over all this wood. We've got our janitor here who's making sure everything is staying tip-top shape, and we've nearly managed to complete our carpenter. Fantastic. And with that, we actually have too many people trying to be employed as carpenters, so we're going to reduce the amount, and they'll be there creating our furniture. We'll be able to use that to create our hunter's hut, and more importantly, our lavatory, which we're going to be using to make people just a little bit happier as well. So this can be our first wooden building. We'll just make a nice little, probably small-ish lavatory here. We'll give them a couple of latrines. There we go. Small little basin. Wash your hands at. Don't want them to come out with dirty hands. And there we go. I think that's quite a nice little lavatory. We will not put that door there. We can see here there's the isolation value here. Poorly isolated things need more maintenance and they also give off more noise. So we'll just build this nice little hut here. Fantastic. And I think as well, we'll probably have a little look at our roads, and we want to make sure that we have dirt roads. Our most traffic section. People like to walk on roads more than they like to walk just on the dirt. So we'll just make everything just a nice dirt road here for when people are kind of wandering about inside our, I'd say city, but it's not quite. And, fantastic, it looks like we've got a couple of migrants that have come in. 15 humans we're up to now. That will really help us going forward. It means actually that we can actually set this up to have the maximum number of carpenters, and they'll be able to just work away for us and create us our furniture. This is a good way of getting your sort of early game setup done. You want to make sure just you have a little bit of furniture, and we're going to use that to build up our first hunter. We'll probably actually put them fairly close to the animals, like over here. They'll move eventually. Our city's going to be here. But for now, this is fine. And we'll build up a fairly good little hunter's hut. It's going to need quite a few of our resources in order to be fully efficient, but that's fine. And we'll make sure to put a couple of doors on there as well so people can come in and out like so. Our loyalty is decreasing. Good to know. Thank you for telling me. Yeah, that seems good. So we've got ourselves a little hunter's hut here. People aren't so happy for some reason. I guess that's because of their access to services. They're not quite so happy about that. Doesn't look like anybody's died. It does look like 4 people are okay for housing. Oh no, that's the available housing that we have, rather than the number of homeless. So things are looking pretty well. Once we have this lavatory made as well, things will look a little bit better. And we can start to concentrate on a slightly larger city going forward. Not that things are going particularly badly. We've managed to set up the basics of what you basically need to get your city started. We're doing okay for food, although the meat is going down ever so slightly. We have a bit more meat over there though that we could use, so we'll not worry about it too much. What's happening over here in the warehouse, my man? Just, you know, chilling, grabbing some stuff. Fantastic. We'll have this lavatory made sooner rather than later as well, which will be a big help. And then after that we need to think about our hunters. Getting a constant supply of food will really help us. We can potentially use that. You get animals as well from hunting, which we'll be able to use in order to make some pastures, which is another way we can get meat and leather and cotton, depending on what kind of animal we grow. It's not that workforce intensive, but the larger ones can be. So we'll have to keep that in mind as well. We're just bringing over all the wood. There we go, bring over the furniture. And there we go, we've got our toilets nearly finished. once the save goes through. And would you look at that, we're in day 3 of winter already. We've nearly been here a year. How time flies. Yep, not too unhappy with how things are going. We're actually managing to get immigration in, which is nice. Not very much to begin with, but, you know, everything helps. And there we go, we've managed to get our lavatory up and running. This should hopefully help our citizens' happiness a little bit, as they'll have more access to services now. You can see only 4% of them have actually used that. I don't dare want to think what they've been doing rather than using the toilet, but we'll maybe not think about that if we can help it. Let's keep building our road over here. You can see that we have quite a grand design for our immediate kind of city centre. This is probably going to be the centre of our operations. As I said, we'll probably have a farming district over here, and as we get further and further up towards the mountain, we'll probably have more of an industrial sector up here in the future. But everything's going okay. We're starting off small, we're starting off slow, and that's absolutely fine. That's going to happen. It's going to take you a little bit of time, especially if you're working without the extra titles. It's going to take a little bit of time in order to get up to the point where you're starting to really, you know, do very much. And that's just the way the game plays. Speaking of the way the game plays, let's make sure that we're forging that, please. Yes, thank you. We can't really do it just now because it's not the right season, but that's absolutely okay. We could potentially start thinking about importing as well. We have a decent amount of meat, and especially once we have this hunter constructed, we're actually making a fairly decent amount of furniture, at least for the early game. And we could use that to sell so we can get some money, and then use that money to buy things like fruit or vegetables, which we'll then be able to use to work on our agriculture. Speaking of agriculture, looking at the fertility kind of around us, it's not great until we actually get to the river itself. So I'm wondering if we maybe try and set up some kind of vegetable farm or field, and we could make just a nice kind of nice little 20 by 12 farm here. That should be a good amount of production for us just for the beginning. Good amount of fertility, needs a couple of farmers, but that's okay. It does need vegetables to complete this, so we don't have any vegetables near us, I don't think. In fact, it's all the way on the other side of the map, or down here over by the road. So we'll need to keep that into consideration. A little bit of opiates here as well. Something to keep in mind. Opiates are always a good cash crop for you to use for your city, just to help things out. And how are our odd jobbers doing? They're nearly finished up this road here, so this should hopefully improve their environment. Let's have a little look. Yeah, we can see here that they're happy that there's more roads now, which is good. That'll increase their happiness. The happier they are, the more people it will get, the higher their loyalty, the less likely they are to leave or to riot, which we definitely would not want at this stage. If that happened, I would be very, very upset. And I think as well we can think about maybe making some more houses over here. Yeah, something like that. It's going to cost us a lot of wood, but that's fine. We've got this forest over here that we can kind of chop down just to keep our wood coming in. And how are we doing over here? We're just clearing out this hunter, and once this hunter's cleared out, we'll have a couple of guys out hunting, and that will be able to help us quite a bit as well. When it comes to these Crotonians, you know what, maybe I was being a bit harsh. We'll actually say we were going to take 100 Crotonians. We just really want the workforce. We want people who are going to come here, work hard for us. We could do the same for the Dondorians as well, actually. Yeah, let's just maybe let in a few of these Dondorians. They're not going to be particularly happy, just because things aren't quite to their liking. Dondorians especially, they are very much, yeah, you can see here their happiness. They're not happy with the level of services they are being provided with. The Crotonians are a little bit easier to please, but again, they're probably just a little bit annoyed that, well, there's only meat to eat. They will eat the meat, but they don't like it. They much prefer things like bread, things like vegetables, if they can get it. But that's fine. We'll finish off this hunter. We may actually build a temporary bakery, just so we can get just a little bit of grain out. We don't need to particularly make it very efficient. Yeah, something like that. That'll be fine. Put storage in, just so they can store the goods that they make. Like so. And then do we have a space for a little oven? We do, but it would block that. And we can put that there, that's fine, that makes it very efficient. We can just deconstruct this at some point. Just a small little oven for baking bread that we'll be able to then give to our people. Might as well use up that 35 grain that we have. It'll also increase our food stocks, which is also very, very, very nice. because it'll make people a little bit happier. On that note, I may tell them, hey, just hunt just one or two things over here. People can die from hunting, which could always be a shame because we don't have a mass grave at the moment. Or burying people. I'm sure we'll be okay. There we are, we're just giving the wood over to the bakery. We are running a little bit out of wood, so hopefully people are chopping down those trees. They are fantastic. And we've actually got a decent number of labourers now. Look at that, we've got 23 people. The number just keeps shooting on up. 19 humans, 3 Cretonians, and 1 Dundorian. Probably later on in the game we may forcibly work the Cretonians. We'll kind of see how things go and what people kind of want out of the series. But that's always what I like to do in these fantasy games. Fantasy games, not in real life. Okay, so here we are. We've managed to finish up our bakery. Oh, that's a good point. We should actually have our warehouse storing bread if it's not already. Doesn't look like it is, so we'll make sure that we're storing up our bread. We've got enough crates. Ah, and a new level has been bestowed upon our name. The level of Emir. This unlocks a laboratory, which means we're able to research, gives a little bit extra happiness, and a little bit extra immigration, which is very, very nice. And that's because we finally reached a population size of 25. Okay, and I think with that, actually, that's probably a nice place to kind of naturally stop the episode. So thank you very much for watching. If you're liking the Songs of Syx gameplay, please let me know down in the comments. If you'd like to be one of our nobles, again, let me know down in the comments, and I'm sure we can get that in for you when the game comes round to it. And if you'd like to become a member of the channel, just support us a little bit more, get access to a couple of benefits, consider joining one of the Burger Band. Anyway, just want to say thank you very much for watching, and until next time, take care.